What's up, world of Pokemon and YouTube? Jolteon here, finally bringing you the last match of the Jolteon Bracket, the finals between Patrick Lella and Fidane Hill. And as expected from a finals match, this battle is intense. So let's delay no longer. Patrick is going to lead off with his Hippowdon to set up his weather, faced off against opponent's Hydreigon. This Hydreigon, not really being able to do much against the Hippowdon, opts to U-turn to try to get a little bit of momentum in, and hopefully bring out something that'll put this Hippowdon on the run. And he does just that, switching into a shiny Swampert. But this gives Patrick a perfect opportunity to set up his rocks uncontested. Not wanting to take anything from this Swampert, Patrick is going to opt to switch out. He's going to predict the Toxic coming from Swampert and switch into his Jirachi, completely immune from it. Jirachi goes for the Body Slam, trying to get the 60% paralyzed, but does not get the luck there. And instead takes an Earthquake to the face. Now, this thing hits Jirachi especially hard. Even at super effective, this thing puts it down way too far into the dangerous range. Seeing this, Patrick's definitely not going to want to stay in. Predicting the switch into something flying to prevent Earthquake, the Swampert is going to go for an Ice Punch. Even though it doesn't affect this Slowbro very much, 5 turns in, he already gets a freeze. This is bad and very far against Patrick's favor. This is going to put Patrick on the run until he gets a chance to get rid of that freeze. Now, Fidane's going to send out his Ninetales to set up Sun. A turn sooner and this would have been great in Patrick's favor, but because he's already got the freeze on, there's not much the Slowbro can do, except either switch out or wait. Fidane tried to predict the switch out with that Hypnosis, but it didn't do much, considering he's going to try to wait it out and see about thawing his Slowbro. Slowbro takes that Solar Beam immensely well, considering it's weak to it, but it can't take another one, so he's going to have to get Slowbro out of there, activating Regenerator. See, Patrick has to get rid of that Sun, otherwise Solar Beam is just going to hurt a lot worse than it already does. Because he's got a team that's way too weak to Solar Beam, and it's way too easy to get off without Sand Up. Knowing he has to get his Sun back up, he's going to switch out into Porygon 2 to take whatever he switches into next. Funny enough, this Porygon 2's Trace into Sandstream doesn't do anything. It would work against his favor if it did affect. And knowing Porygon 2 can't do a whole lot of damage offensively, he's going to try to switch into Slowbro to take whatever it can do. Baiting the Thunderbolt from Porygon 2, he switches into his Rosary to take that Thunderbolt spectacularly, but he gets hit by the hacks again, taking the paralysis from Thunderbolt. This is already looking like a bad match for Patrick. This Roserade takes that Ice Beam amazingly, but once again the paralysis does him in. Seeing the damage that this Ice Beam does, he's not going to want to stay in with we're going to. Instead, opted for something a little more offensively capable, like Gliscor. But this does give his Roserade the option to get off aromatherapy, completely erasing all the status ailments on his team. This is going to cure his Hippowdon sleep, it'll cure his Roserade paralysis, and it gets his Slowbro back out of Frozen. This Gliscor's going to be a tough contender because with Poison Heal, it's going to be hard to take down and it can't be affected by other statuses. But that's not going to put Patrick out. He's got a few tricks up his sleeve to deal with this Gliscor. Barely doing anything. This Hippowdon's going to take Earthquake and deliver an Ice Fang to knock out Gliscor's substitute. Now, Fidane's got two options here. Try to keep setting up subs, which will keep getting knocked out by Ice Fang, or switch out into something that can take on Hippowdon a lot better, like he does here with his Swampert. Odds really are in Patrick's favor as he misses the Ice Fang and gives Swampert a free switch in. Trying to predict another switch instead of going for something like Waterfall, he's going to go for the Earthquake. It hits Slowbro kind of hard, but it's not enough to do 50% damage, which gives this Slowbro a really good chance to hit him back and try to whittle down. Anyone who's ever been up against a defensive Slowbro knows that chip damage just doesn't do it. You've got to hit him hard and hit him fast, or don't hit him at all. Even though he's taking damage and starting to rack up toxic counters, he's going to be able to heal it off right away whenever he switches out with his Regenerator ability. And Patrick does so here, switching back into his Jirachi to hopefully take whatever this Swampert can throw at him. Just barely missing the kill with Ice Punch. It gives Jirachi a turn to switch in and hopefully set something up to help with this Swampert. He's going to opt for Wish, even though he's going to get knocked out by this Swampert's next attack. He'll be able to heal off whatever damage is on his next Pokemon. Looks like he's going to try to send out Roserade because that's the one that took the most damage. Got it right, sending it out to absorb that Wish. Giga Drain will hit this thing especially hard, grasping one of the only things that Swampert's weak against, enough to knock it out in one shot. The Giga Drain also heals this Roserade up to full, unfortunately wasting Jirachi's dying Wish. Even so, having this thing at full health, no matter what cause, is always the best course of action. Switching back into his Ninetales to get rid of the sand and set up the sun. It looks like Patrick is starting to gain his momentum back in this match. After getting a really slow, really bad start, it looks like things are going to start to turn around. Not letting the sun stay up for one turn, he switches back into Hippowdon to take whatever he throws out next, predicting the Solar Beam, but instead gets hit for about half from a Fire Blast. Definitely not wanting to take an earthquake. He's going to switch back out into Blaze Core. But the earthquake doesn't come. Patrick opts to heal up his Hippodon instead, putting it right back where it needs to be, in the leader of the weather world. Also predicting an Ice Fang, he switches out the Porygon too to see what's going to come. Even though it's not that effective, the Ice Fang does put Porygon 2 under 50% health, stacking with the sand damage. Porygon 2 is going to have a chance to recover, which really puts him at a stalemate because Porygon 2 is defensive enough to take the damage from this thing, but at the same time it can't dish out a whole lot on its own. Even the super effective Ice Beam only did about 40%, 35 to 40% at best. But he ends up taking another Earthquake, seeing just how well Hippodon can take the damage. The amount it dishes out can't be compensated with Slack Off, and hopefully he can take him out with a critical hit or something. Trying to predict the switch into Gliscor, he goes for another Ice Fang, but unfortunately fails that prediction. At this range, he couldn't take a third Ice Beam, so he's going to get out of there, switching back into a Steel Beam. But again, not getting a good prediction in, he's going to get the recovery off on Porygon 2. Even though Slowbro's not taking any damage, this acts as like a neutral switch because he's not going to get any damage on, but instead recovering up to about 70% health, give or take. Thunderbolt really hits him hard, but Patrick needed that to get off Thunder Wave on this Porygon 2. This thing is far too fast and far too bulky to be allowed to outspeed anything on his team. Patrick has got to switch Slowbro out constantly, otherwise the toxic damage will rack up even through Slack Off or other kind of recovery moves. It won't be enough if he opts to stay in, especially with this thing being able to hit him for about half his health with Thunderbolt. He's going to switch back into his Roserade, predicting the Thunderbolt, but Porygon 2 does opt to recover instead, thinking he's going to take another hit. This is going to give Roserade a chance to start setting up his entry hazards. This Roserade doesn't want to start taking Ice Beams from Porygon 2, even though it's only going about 45%, maybe less, since the Sandstorm damage didn't put him down to half. But Spikes will be crucial, along with Stealth Rocks in this match. Because you can just see how much damage Stealth Rocks along with Spikes are doing to this Ninetales. It is more than enough to put him into a dangerous range, and once he switches out now, there will be no coming back. Because I don't believe Fidane has a spinner, and there's literally no way that he could switch in on his Ninetales without dying immediately from the entry hazards and failing to set up his Sun. This is where Patrick wins the Weather War. Predicting another Fire Blast, like last time, he switches into a Slowbro to take it. But unfortunately, he does get a failed prediction, and it takes Solar Beam, knocking out his Slowbro. This is definitely going to hurt Patrick, as Slowbro was one of his best tanks. But at the same time, it's going to seriously seriously tip the scales having the weather up for him. Oh, just barely misses the kill again. This has to hurt for Fidane to watch his damage lose the kill by less than 10 twice in one match. This match, I told you, is really intense. It's hard to watch without getting hyped up, just seeing how close things come, how many hacks happen. It's just a great match all in all. And we're only a little over halfway done with it right now. Patrick is going to opt to heal up his Hippodon to full health. After that near-death scare, he doesn't want to take any more risks. Porygon 2 is going to get off the Ice Beam on this Hippodon, which really hits him hard. Just a little under half. But that little under half is enough for Hippodon to start taking an offensive after his next heal. Because he knows, no matter what, Porygon 2 is not going to be able to chip damage him to death unless he gets a lucky crit. But his luck doesn't have to come from crits, because he ends up getting his second freeze in one game. Second freeze. That you can deal with crits, you can deal with flinching, but freeze is one of those status effects that just eats you from the inside out. Just because you know how low of a percentage it is, and you know how irritating it is to get rid of. So having to take 2 freezes in one match must be painful for Patrick. Even though he is on the offensive right now, it's not an easy thing for him to deal with. Just as he finishes dealing with the second freeze, a third one! Could you get screwed any harder by freeze? 3 times in one match, that's 10% each time. That has got to hurt. I mean, a first turn blowout really does help. It would still be just painful to see a freeze happen 3 times in one match. Right now, this Porygon 2 is on the run because it has to keep recovering. With Roserade being able to Giga Drain it, recovering its own health, it's not going to be able to get off too many attacks before it has to quit. And even though it's not doing a very large chunk of damage, that damage will keep coming. And this Porygon 2 is already starting to run out of Ice Beams. Leftovers definitely helps, and hopefully he can stay alive through the next Ice Beam with this Giga Drain. But no such luck. Porygon 2 takes it out, and effectively eliminating Patrick's only method of getting rid of status effects in this battle. At this point, it's almost guaranteed that he just wants to fodder off his Porygon 2. He can't switch out because he would get killed by entry hatches on the way in, and he's not going to outspeed this Excadrill, so he might as well just leave it in to take it out. He's going to switch back into Gliscor, which is going to scare off that Excadrill. He's going to send out his Dragonite to sponge up this Earthquake. This is going to be an important factor in making sure Dragonite scares off Fidane and keeps him guessing. An unboosted Facade, tanked by Multiscale, does barely 15% damage to this dragon. It's more than enough to get off the dragon tail and get this and get this Gliscor out of there. But he also draws out Terrakion. Not much of a better option at this point. But at least he doesn't have the option of that being able to boost a facade of Swords Dance and Substitute. Unfortunately, this Terrakion does get a hit on his Stone Edge, which knocks out Dragonite without contest. But knowing he's going to try to pull him back, he's going to... No, I guess he doesn't try to predict that. He goes for the Earthquake to knock out Terrakion, thinking he's going to get close combat off on Excadrill for the kill. But he doesn't. He switches into his Gliscor, which painfully is going to take the Rock Slide. This puts him into a very dangerous area, about what Patrick had done to Fidane twice this match with barely surviving an attack. But because he tries to substitute, it's not going to work for him. That's going to put an end to that Gliscor. Using X-Scissor, he almost has enough power to knock out this Hydreigon, but just barely misses it. But he gets the redemption when Hydreigon misses his Focus Blast. The second X-Scissor puts an end to Hydreigon and really puts Fidane on the run. Taking entry hazard damage, there's not much Terrakion can do, storing at half health, especially dealing with an Earthquake here. And that is going to be an end to the game. Congratulations, Patrick and Lella, for winning the Jolteon Bracket of the World Pokemon Admins Tournament. And remember, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Keep up to date with all of our latest videos. Link will be in the description.